An Africa free. An
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this regional dialogue on ending violence against children, a regional dialogue convened for West Africa. Honorable Mrs. Manti Tarawali, Minister of Gender, Children's Affairs, Republic of Sierra Leone. Honorable Ava Gava, the Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Children for the Africa Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. Ms. Asu Joella Consol Oluwalinke, our child speaker from Benin. Ms. Bintu Fatijuf, Director, Department of Children, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, Republic of the Gambia. Ms. Florence Aisi Kwati, the Director, Department of Children, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection from the Republic of Ghana. Ms. Amani Saleh Amina, Director, Department of Children from the Ministry of the Advancement of Women and Child Protection, Republic of Niger. Mr. Komlan Messi, the General Secretary of WASCOF. Partners, friends, and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this West African Regional Dialogue on Ending Violence Against Children. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the African Partnership to End Violence Against Children, the African Child Policy Forum, and WASCOF to welcome you to this sitting. I will be your chair for this first session of the event, following which I will hand over to my colleague, Yohala Shatmekonen, to take us through the second part of our 2.5 hours. So today is made even more momentous because just a week ago, ACPF met with more than 60 representatives from various West African governments, civil societies, and partners in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, to deliberate on the rights of girls in West Africa. Among these rights, of course, was the protection from violence. In that meeting, we committed as child rights policymakers and practitioners to accelerate our actions to address the alarming prevalence of violence against children in all its forms and in all spaces. And hence, we converge here this afternoon and this morning. I am pleased to note, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that Africa has ratified many multiple international and African instruments. Many African countries have gone on to pass national laws that prohibit violence against children. West Africa has not been left behind in this respect. However, the question that I beg to ask is why the lived experience of a great number of children on the continent and in West Africa does not reflect similar progress to what we have seen in the law and policy sphere. Why is it that despite the considerable advances in law that we are celebrating, we are not celebrating parallel declines in violence against children? Recent global estimates on the prevalence of violence against children puts West Africa high up than all other regions on the continent. A few figures. More than 8 out of 10 children aged from as little as 1 year to 14 years experience violent discipline every month. More than 1/3 of girls aged 15 to 19 experience some form of physical violence. And unfortunately, again, more than 1 in 10 adolescent girls aged between 15 and 19 have experienced a form of sexual violence in this young life before 19. And this is because the commitments that we have made in ratifying the international and regional instruments do not automatically translate into a better life for children. And this is because political will and resource allocations are needed to drive law implementation and enforcement. The other question that we must consider as we gather here this morning, this afternoon, is that of the factors that hold us back, from the deeply rooted social norms to economic and gender inequalities, and even the armed conflicts that are widespread in the West Africa and Sahel regions. All these factors expose children to violence and increase their vulnerability. Evidence from ACPF's research that was published just earlier this year in July shows the existence of homegrown African solutions that have been effective in preventing violence against our children. Our communities have rich and unique cultures. They have wealth of heritage and knowledge base that they have used to effectively prevent and respond to violence against children. It is now the imperative of government to give sufficient attention and resources to these local initiatives that have proven to be effective. This is especially so for children who face persistent violence and discrimination, such as girls, children with disabilities, children living with albinism, and even children living or working in the streets in situations of displacement or in armed conflict. And of course, we cannot ignore what COVID-19 has done. It threatens a lot of loss and reversal of the progress that we have made as a continent. So we must keep an eye on it. And so as we gather today to explore where we are and what remains to be done to achieve an Africa that is free from violence against children, I will remind you that last year, we commemorated 30 years of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. In these 30 years, there has been remarkable progress. There are many encouraging developments that we have witnessed and we can bear testimony to. Governments are taking the important steps of developing comprehensive national plans of action to end violence against children. And we applaud all those governments that have made such efforts. However, we urge them to ensure that these policy frameworks are well-resourced and they are built upon multi-sectoral strategies. It is my hope that in our deliberations today, we will share and remind each other that what is needed to end violence against children is an integrated multi-sectoral plan of action that is aligned with the National Development Agenda that mobilizes all partners, stakeholders, and citizens, and is backed by the essential political will and resources to implement it. Today presents us with an opportunity to renew our efforts. There are many important things to think about as we do so. I will mention only one, and that is the importance of promoting the fundamental principle of child participation by listening to children themselves and creating spaces where children can actively participate in identifying solutions to their problems. Children are part of the solution for ending violence against children. Let us be keen and deliberate to provide opportunities and empower children to play an active part in ending violence against children. Documented in our reports is the solutions that I have already mentioned, solutions that lie in our rich African culture and heritage, solutions that we must focus on in preventing and responding to violence in all contexts. It is my hope that as we continue with this dialogue, we will give sufficient attention and commit to giving sufficient resources to our indigenous knowledge and practices, to our own homegrown solutions to solve our problems. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with those brief opening remarks, I welcome you to this dialogue forum and wish us all a fruitful deliberation in the coming 2.5 hours. And now, as chair of this opening session, I will want us to move to the next speaker on our agenda. And our next speaker this afternoon is from Sierra Leone. We have the pleasure of hosting Honorable Ms. Manti Tarawali. She is the Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs from the Republic of Sierra Leone. And she will gladly share with us her perspective this morning. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for honoring my invitations, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished panelists, and also everyone watching virtually. Good afternoon from Sierra Leone, and permit me to stand on existing protocols. Let me start by thanking the African Partnership to Ending Violence Against Children for convening this meeting, and also the African Child Policy Forum and West African Civil Society Forum. I'm excited to be here and to share the Sierra Leone experience on, our dealing of sexual and gender-based violence, particularly for children, because at its height in Sierra Leone, we were recording 5,000 cases a month, and a year, and 90% of the cases were children under the age of 18. So in 2019, due to an unprecedented prolonged increase in sexual violence incidences across the country, His Excellency, our President, declared a state of emergency on rape. Her Excellency, the First Lady, Madam Fatima Bio, started the successful Hands Off Our Girls campaign across the entire country. The aim of the campaign was to raise awareness to the extent of the problem for sustainable solutions. So what did we learn from the experience? What are the lessons from Hands Off Our Girls campaign? So one, the support from the President was unprecedented, and it broke the stigma. To get the head of state step in and declare a state of emergency was an unparalleled first step. That singular action brought the matter to the forefront. The issue became topical. Everyone got involved. Two, evidence-based advocacy propelled policymakers to act. The evidence gathered revealed the scale of the problem and the need for immediate sustainable solutions. Three, once the stigma was broken, cases came flooding in. Floods of cases were reported, both old and new cases. There was freedom to tell stories. Four, solutions came from the public. And Madam Chair just spoke about getting children involved and then coming up, with solutions. It was all hands on deck. And so some really great ideas came pouring in from different stakeholders. And 5, support from other first ladies from neighboring countries, Liberia, the Gambia, Ghana, Nigeria, and Niger. The campaign strengthened its voice and credibility across the globe by firstly galvanizing support within the sub-region. So what happened next? As a strategic response and in line with our country's national development strategy, which is human capital development, His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, made 2 deliberate interventions to further control the situation. 1, he amended the Sexual Offences Act in 2019 to include stringent punitive measures for perpetrators. So we're talking 15 years minimum. And created a standalone ministry, that is my ministry, the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs, with a mandate, amongst others, to address the issues relating to violence against women and children. So what has the ministry done? As a minister, I fully recognize that eliminating or reducing social ills require a collective approach. No one entity can do it alone. So our role as a ministry is to create the environment for an all-inclusive participatory approach. This means we create sustainable systems and approaches that encourage structured, coordinated, cohesive participation and involvement. This includes developing and implementing national policies, systems, strategies, and structures that our partners and citizens can use, and also ensuring effective monitoring and evaluation. So when we talk of addressing sexual violence, there are 3 key sections that we looked at. 1, prevention, 2, response, and 3, coordination and monitoring. So how do we prevent sexual violence in Sierra Leone? 1, we developed a national steering committee for sexual violence, which is presided by His Excellency the President. The committee brings together all relevant stakeholders from the NGO sector, government sector, private sector, and donors to deliberate on strategy, evaluate corresponding outcomes, and determine additional action. 2, we have reviewed the Child Rights Act of 2007 to strengthen the protection and prevention measures for girls as well as boys. And among the revision is a national metric system to calculate child maintenance for single parents. This gives single parents the much needed financial muscle to facilitate protection of their children, particularly girls. The revision also harmonizes our marriage laws to ensure that no marriage under the age of 18 is legal. The revision also prohibits FGM under the age of 18. And given that FGM is linked to marriage, it is seen as a vital component to support the prevention of early marriages. The longer FGM is delayed, the later suitability for marriage. The Council of Chiefs and the Councils of SOEs, as we call them here, the FGM practitioners, have both signed a communique in support of the revised act. 3, we have developed a male involvement strategy. His Excellency the President launched the strategy on the 8th of March 2020. The strategy is designed to prevent sexual violence through the use of men and boys as allies and change agents, whilst also recognizing that they too can be victims. To implement the strategy, we have trained youth leaders to popularize the Sexual Offences Amendment Act and to also act as advocates and change agents in their various communities. 4, we have also partnered with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Education to integrate comprehensive sexuality education into the formal basic education curriculum. The National Curriculum Framework and Guidelines for Basic Education now contains the key concepts of comprehensive sexuality education, including the mainstreaming of gender and rights across various age groups and subjects. We have also developed a parenting strategy This is an approach that provides parents with the tools to intentionally raise their children in an environment free from sexual violence. We also developed and launched the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Policy 2020 to economically and politically empower women. And since the launch last year, we have attracted and worked with over 3,000 women. So these interventions are meant to, one, support single parents to ensure that they have the resources to look after their girls and boys free from sexual violence. Two, educate boys, men, girls, and women about the misconceptions of gender roles. Three, address abuse of power. And four, give parents the information and tools on how to intentionally be good parents. And accordingly, as of July 2021, we recorded for the very first time a 20% reduction in reported sexual violence cases. However, we still have a long way to go. And to ensure that when this unfortunate incident occurs, a system is in place, we have developed a national response mechanism. My ministry has developed a sexual gender-based violence response strategy. In implementing the strategy, we have developed a free 116 hotline. The hotline is free from every mobile network in the country and is operational 24 hours a day. We are creating one-stop centers across the country. Each one-stop center provides comprehensive survivor-centered services free of charge, from legal, psychosocial, medical, and safe homes. The beauty of this approach is that you have all that you need to address the issue in one place. We have also created the Sexual Offences Model Court. The court sits 6 days a week to fast-track cases, and the court is also being decentralized across the country. The Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Policy, launched in 2020, has now been translated into an affirmative action bill, and I'll be introducing the bill in Parliament tomorrow. And finally, on coordination and monitoring to enable ownership of these interventions by the districts, particularly as we move towards decentralization, we are instituting district steering committees. These committees are led by the councils. They bring together the key stakeholders within the districts to review cases of sexual violence and come up with local solutions to prevent reoccurrences. We have also developed a bespoke national information management system, and we'll be rolling this out next year, backed by a policy that will ensure its utilization by all child protection partners. The system will bring together every child protection partner in the country by ensuring all cases are recorded on the same system, which the ministry will have overall governance and control of. There's still a lot to do. We are only just getting started. But thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. And I like your closure, really telling us that there is a lot to do, and really this is the beginning of the journey. But I must commend you, if you will allow me, to really extend our most sincere appreciation to His Excellency the President for himself providing that political leadership at the highest level to end sexual violence. That is what it takes. The political leadership, the right people saying no more of this. So our sincere best wishes and congratulations to His Excellency for that leadership. And of course, to all the other community members, from the parents to the women, everybody, the young people, the men and the boys who are part of this journey, because it takes a village to raise a child. Absolutely. And it takes a village to keep our children safe. Honorable Minister, I hope you'll be able to stay with us for the remainder of the session as we carry on.
Can I just say a quick, I may be in and out because tomorrow, as I mentioned, I'll be laying in Parliament the affirmative action bill, the gender empowerment, bill. So I am doing my legwork right now. So I'll be in and out. So, apologies.
No, I think with that, we'll excuse you. That is a greater cause. Ruth rooting for you and keeping our eyes on the news.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And so, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, that is our Honorable Minister, Honorable Manti Tarawali from the Republic of Sierra Leone. And now we were hoping we would have a child speaking to us and sharing her perspectives, but unfortunately she's unable to join us. And therefore, I beg your indulgence. We will therefore move to the second part of this session. This will be chaired by my colleague, Mr. Yohalashet Mekonnen. And so, Yohalashet, I'm inviting you now to take the floor and take us through the next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. And really, I would like also to really appreciate the previous speakers, Joanne, in your opening remarks, and Honorable Minister. I think you had already set the scene for the subsequent discussions, and you made my life easier. Now I don't have to do much of introduction. In this session, we go into the heart of the matter. You see, we have so many laws and policies, but implementation becomes a challenge. So we will be discussing about the capacity issues within especially the government, who is really coordinating the prevention of children's, I think, violence against children. And I want to hear from them as to how are they doing it? What are the challenges that are out there that we need to really learn from that? So we have really 4 distinguished speakers from the Gambia, from Ghana, from Niger, and from SCTF as well. So from the Gambia, we have Ms. Binton Fati Diouf. Madam, are you there? Madam, Ms. Binton Fati Diouf. Okay. And from Ghana, I think we are also supposed to have Ms. Florence I.C. Quartier. Madam Florence, are you there? Madam Florence? Madam Florence was with us in the Ouagadougou meeting, and really we have learned a lot from Ghana's experience when she presented it there in the regional forum on girls. And really we would have benefited a lot from Ghana as well. And from Niger, we have Ms. Amani Sali Amina. Madam, it was great to have you. Okay, it was great to have you. And this is Madam Amina is the Director of Department of Children at the Ministry for the Advancement of Women and Child Protection of the Republic of Niger. And we also have in our panel Ms. Saba Lishan, who is the Senior Technical Officer for the African Partnership to End Violence Against Children, APEWAC. And Saba has worked for decades on child protection, and she's a good resource person really to tell us about the progress that we have made in this area and what lies ahead in terms of this. But before introducing and calling on the speakers, I would like to really ask to take a few minutes to see some infographics on titled Towards an Africa Free from Violence in July. And perhaps I would also like to add, ladies and gentlemen, that in July this year, the African Partnership for End Violence and the SCPF, we have launched 3 reports that examine the state of violence in Africa. They were also launched at the high-level Pan-African conference that we have organized in that same month. And these reports are the Violence Against Children in Africa, a report on progress and challenges, that talk of the progress made. We had also explored the national capacity to address violence against children. Assessment was made in 10 countries. There was also another story report on Here to Say, which documented homegrown solutions to ending violence against children. So the infographic that will be shown in the coming 5 or 10 minutes is a synthesis and summary of these resources. I'm sure we'll
children is a vision that unites all of us who strive to improve the lives and prospects of the people of this continent. However, significant challenges remain at both national and community level to prevent and protect children from violence. By taking stock of progress, challenges and solutions, we can map a path that may lead us to the realization of this vision. There are clear indicators of progress which prove that concerted efforts produce positive results. Firstly, African states have made significant progress in ratifying global and continental key legal instruments. The widely ratified Convention on the Rights of the Child and its optional protocols, and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child serve as the cornerstones. The adoption of Agenda 2063, Agenda 2040, and the Sustainable Development Goals further augment the efforts within these binding legal instruments to address violence against children. Secondly, there has been significant progress on the legal protection of children from violence. 49 out of 55 countries now have consolidated children's acts, providing a wide range of protections for children. Most African governments have set the minimum age of marriage at 18 years or above. With the exception of 3 countries, all African states recognize freedom from torture and inhuman punishment as a fundamental right in their constitutions. 29 countries have set the minimum employment age higher than 14 years. To date, 42 countries have laws that prohibit harmful practices. For example, female genital mutilation is criminalized in at least 28 African countries. Many African countries have passed anti-trafficking laws. Enhanced access to justice for victims of violence against children is visible through the application of these legally binding instruments. Thirdly, African governments have put national strategies and programs in place to combat violence against children. Many countries in Africa now have a comprehensive national action plan, and there are encouraging examples of countries implementing multi-sectoral and stakeholder coordinated action to address the protection of children from violence. Comprehensive child protection systems are now in place in some countries. Even though countries in Africa spend on average less than 0.7% of GDP on social protection, it remains a key tool in enabling families to better care for their children. Positive parenting programs implemented via the healthcare systems are improving relationships between parents and their children, with the clear potential to reduce violence. Africa is home to several homegrown solutions that have been effective in addressing violence against children. These initiatives address the complex interplay of factors between the child and his or her social context, such as the family, school, community, and society that influence the child's exposure to violence. A number of key factors contribute to this success. Political will at the highest level is essential to create a culture of prevention of violence, including strong legal and policy frameworks, systems, and adequate budgeting. Community ownership has created opportunities for local initiatives to take root, scale up, and mobilize rapidly. Community-based mechanisms facilitate access to the most marginalized and hard-to-reach groups, especially in areas that have experienced protracted conflicts. Interventions that take holistic, intersectional approaches are very effective at a family level. Resilience and leadership at an individual level, with a strong resolve to building girls' and boys' agency, is a critical factor. Faith-based bodies can be instrumental due to a strong influence on the community and a history of addressing moral and ethical issues. Existing community assets, such as village savings and loan associations, can be harnessed for economic strengthening and hence violence prevention at family levels. All of these factors show that when strong commitment and sustained action come together, violence in children's lives stops being perceived as inevitable and indeed can be eliminated. Although African governments have taken important steps in strengthening their normative frameworks, the persistently fragile state of children's rights, marked by ever-increasing and changing forms of violence, is a huge concern. There is still insufficient investment in violence prevention despite the high cost of inaction. Legislation is poorly enforced. policy and system interventions remain uncoordinated. Particularly vulnerable children remain hidden and overlooked due to their circumstances, which may include conflict, displacement, poverty, age, gender, or disability. Free birth registration coverage is extremely low in many African countries. There is inadequate attention to the cumulative impact of violence across children's lives. There is not enough investment in regularly generating comprehensive data. And there are deep-rooted social norms and practices that still condone violence against children. As a result, while there are many children in Africa who live in joy and peace, a staggering number of children are still exposed to violence in all its forms. At least 60% of boys and 51% of girls have experienced physical abuse. In many parts of Africa, 8 in 10 children experienced violent discipline in the home. About half of children aged 13 to 15 have been bullied in schools. The continent has the highest median rates of child neglect in the world, with almost 42% of girls and 39% of boys being neglected by their caregivers. In some countries, 30 to 40% of adolescent girls are victims of sexual violence before the age of 15, and sub-Saharan Africa has the highest incidence of child trafficking in the world. Female genital mutilation is still almost universal in some countries, including Somalia, Guinea, and Djibouti, even though other countries have had success in bringing this rate down. Some children experience violence in a more sustained and damaging way than others because of their circumstances. Sexual violence inflicted on children with disabilities is high in many countries. Children with albinism are sometimes subjected to crimes and extreme forms of violence. Children living and/or working on the street are subjected to increased physical and sexual abuse. Increasingly, travel and tourism have become a key frontier for sexual exploitation of children. Terror attacks on civilians, including children, have become a grave child rights challenge. And online, children now face risks of sexual abuse through technological platforms. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought additional challenges in preventing and responding to violence against children. With more than 120 million schoolgirls at home in Africa due to COVID lockdowns, exacerbating their vulnerability, there has been a spike in reports of child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual offences. With so much of our present and future at stake, ending violence against children has become one of the most important priorities of our time. Reaching the goal of a continent free from violence against children will thus require stakeholders to act collectively and decisively. AU and sub-regional bodies must demonstrate political leadership, fight impunity through administrative and judicial processes, and act in solidarity by accelerating the implementation of the relevant goals of Agendas 2063, 2040, and 2030. National governments need to ensure that treaties are fully ratified without reservations, and to harmonise domestic laws accordingly. Laws that criminalise all forms of violence against children must be enacted to enhance protection of children from violence. Adequate budgeting should be in place to fund a comprehensive national plan of action that is anchored within a robust child protection system that prioritises prevention. Evidence and data on the magnitude of the phenomena, system gaps, and solutions must inform action. Civil society organizations need to engage in multifaceted advocacy and engage with governments, Pan-African and sub-regional bodies to influence policy. At a community level, they should support families to be at the forefront of violence against children prevention and response, and scale up homegrown good practices. UN agencies and international organizations should continue to provide assistance, both technical and financial, to governments and CSOs. They can also complement data collection efforts through enhancing national surveillance. The vision of creating an Africa free from violence against children starts with each of us as individuals, examining our attitudes and behaviors to ensure that we never perpetuate these issues. We invite you to take a pledge, to make a personal, lifetime commitment to help end all forms of violence against children. Let us speak out against violence against children wherever and whenever it occurs, be it in our families, at work, or in our communities. It is only through nurturing a culture of rights and dialogue that we will be able to achieve a society that is humane and free from violence, where children are raised in an environment of peace and security.
Really an excellent overview of what the magnitude of the problem is like, the effort being made, and I think what also needs to be done in the future. I hope the interpreters have done justice to our French speaker in terms of translating the messages of the infographics. I see Madame Amina nodding, and perhaps she might have heard of it very well. So thank you very much, team. Now, I don't want to repeat what the infographic has shown us. I will simply directly go and invite, in accordance to our program, I'll be inviting Ms. Binoto Fati-Diouf, who is the director of the Department of Children at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, the Republic of the Gambia. She is with us now, and Madam, you have the floor, and you have 12 minutes to share your perspectives and to share your reflections.
Hello, good afternoon from the Gambia. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you, Madam.
Okay, good afternoon from the Gambia. I think I want the presentation be said at your end because of fluctuation of the internet. That would have helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my task is very simple. It's for me to say what are the milestone registered on the side of government of the Gambia. The presentation outline is I will do the introduction and then about child protection issues in Gambia and what are some of the milestones registered in Gambia, our challenges, and as well as way forward. If you look at the government of the Gambia, recognize the need for adopting a system approach to child protection to address the protection of all children from all forms of violence, abuse, exploitation, neglect, while increasing efficiency, effectiveness of its national response mechanism. Therefore, system approach to child protection is being adopted to align government efforts with civil society communities to make sure that children exposed to child protection risks is mitigated at all times. Their resilience is also strengthening in family context. The background of the National Child Protection Strategy of the Gambia, we have an objective and a long-term goal, which is as follows. One is promoting the right to protect violence. We also bring about effective coordination and collaboration with stakeholders because child protection, one person can't do it alone. We have to collaborate with stakeholders, CSOs, and NGOs to ensure that we create a protective environment for children. To develop human capacity and ensure financial resources, expand preventive protective services, and create the national knowledge and information. We also have synopsis of child protection issues in Gambia. If you look at the synopsis or the existing situations, corporal punishment prevalent rate is at 90%, 90.3%. This is mixed 2010. Mixed 2018 reported that 71.7% of children from 1 to 14 years experience physical punishment. 89.2% of this category of children experience a combine of violent discipline method, and 12.8% of children are subjected to excessive child labor. Female genital mutilation prevalence rate is also at 75%. Birth registration prevalence is 72%, and 1 in every 3 girls is married before 18 years of age. And most of them are from poor families, and this is mixed 2018, which is so recent. Some of the milestones registered at the level of government, you can see that the design and implemented a training manual on child protection principles, practices for current and newly recruited staffs that are working within the child protection environment. The government of the Gambia also developed community-based mechanisms to promote a protective environment for children, establishment of Children National Assembly to enhance child participation in their own welfare. That is also an environment created in the Gambia. The state has put in place legislatives and policy frameworks for the promotion and protection of rights of children in Gambia, and has harmonized its legislations with child-related international legal instruments ratified. And key achievements in this area include the enactment of Comprehensive Children's Act of 2005. And currently, the government of the Gambia, as we are speaking, even today, we have a consultation to review this act to ensure that it is also in line with the current child protection issues are also incorporated in the current act. It has also amended key provisions in the criminal code and raised all ages into 18 years. Establishment, if you look at it still, I am on milestone registered. Establishment of Independent Directorate of Children Affairs in 2019 with an entire ministry that is also responsible, is also looking at the welfare of children. Because Gambia, we don't have an independent directorate responsible for children. But in 2019, the government of the Gambia has established an independent directorate that would look at the welfare of children. We also launched a child helpline 199 to enhance easy reporting on cases of child abuse in the country. We also developed standard operating procedures for case management for vulnerable children, so that we will be in line with actors, not like having isolated interventions everywhere, but actors will be in line to share experience and also know what are the procedures they will apply in case management. We also have establishment of National Child Protection Steering committees both at the national level and at the community level. This is to ensure that we have harmonization in our efforts in terms of implementation, in terms of observing our gaps together, because we work with CSOs and they are also part of the steering committee. We have availability of safety nets and security measures in place to prevent and protect survivors of gender-based violence. Establishment of 8 host families in the community. This is strive to enhance community child protection system, because we also have to rely on our communities, that is to strengthening the child protection system at communities. So in these 8 families are trained around Farafenye in the rural areas to ensure that they also respond to some of the child protection issues when they exist. We have the Children's Act amended in 2016 to criminalize child marriage, and also Women's Act amended in 2015 to criminalize female genital mutilation in the country. Government of the Gambia, with support from World Bank, is implementing a social safety net project to support extreme poor households to reduce child labor. We also have some of the challenges. Despite all this progress registered, we also experience still some challenges when it comes to dealing with protection of children, especially addressing issues of violence against children. That is fear. Many victims are afraid to report violence, especially when the person who has hurt them is more powerful and could harm them in the future. We also have issues around stigma. Victims may be afraid that if others know about the violence, they will be blamed or isolated. The beliefs about violence, sometimes violence is seen as a normal way of dealing with the problem. We have limitation of resources in terms of responding to the needs of the victims. Limited social worker-client ratio in terms of case management, because we don't have all the human resource in place to be able to handle cases. That is when it comes to case management. We also have inadequate human resource in specialized areas of child protection, especially psychologists, because we all know they face trauma when they are traumatized. So you need an expert like psychologists to help in the counseling, and even clinical counselors and people who are therapists in their own domain to help us during their healing process. Inadequate funding for child protection programs, because that's a challenge we face. If you look at child protection, it's an immediate need, and when they strike, you have to ensure that you respond immediately. And sometimes those resources are not in place in terms of response. Our recommendations from Gambia is to create child-friendly policies, codes of conduct for institutions and organizations within government itself, the private sector and civil society, to ensure protection of children from all forms of abuse and exploitation. Remove all the clawback clauses in the Children's Act 2005, strengthening and harmonize its legislative frameworks in accordance with international standards, and provide the requisite political commitment and action to enforce Children's Act of 2005. Implement policies put in place to ensure greater protection for the right of children. You also have to ensure decentralization of children's courts across the country. Because sometimes some of these survivors, when issues happen in the rural setting, they have to find their way to come to children's court around the city, and it's always very, very difficult because they have to, it involves the resources, and sometimes they're from poor families, and sometimes they just give up on the case, not because of anything, because the resources required, they're not available. We need to train some professional or specialized areas in child protection intervention, advocate for a good budget for children program from the side of government to ensure enough budget is in place for the implementation of child protection programs. In my conclusion, violence against children is very close to us, and everyone is affected in one way or the other. All of us have a role to play in preventing and combating violence against children. Eradicating it is beneficial to all of us individually and as a society. Therefore, together, we can end violence against children and let it end now. So thank you all for your listening pleasure.
Thank you so much, Madam Bintu Fati Diouf. I wish you had a stable internet connection to share with us your PowerPoint presentation, but still feel free to send it. We will be disseminating it to the wider audience and to others as well. So feel free to send it even later. So thank you so much. I will not do justice by repeating what you have said. I will simply go, in the interest of time, to the next speaker. I wish Madam Florence was here to share the experience of Ghana, but as I see in the list of panelists, I think Madam Florence has not been able to make it, but I want to do one last minute check. Madam Florence, are you there? Okay. Okay, then. Sorry.
No comment. If she's in the attendee, she can lift up her hand and you can upgrade her.
Okay, I think she's not there in the attendees as well. So then we go to the next speaker, ladies and gentlemen. And we have our next speaker from Niger. As Dr. John introduced her earlier, also let me say it once again. We have Ms. Amani Sali Amina, who is the Director of the Department of Children at the Ministry for the Advancement of Women and Child Protection of the Republic of Niger. Madam, you have the floor and you have 12 minutes. Please make good use of your time. Thank you so much.
Merci. Effectivement, donc, nous allons remercier effectivement donc, le forum sur la politique de l'enfance en Afrique.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us this invitation, and we really thank you for allowing us to come here.
So
and
we are here to share
the good experience of our country,
from our countries, especially from Niger. So recently we had a demographic survey, which indicated that we have the highest number of
rate of cases of child marriage, and we have realized that a majority of them were married before the age of 18, and this document really taking into account the following aspect: the implementation of different law in line with the protection of children, as well as against exploitation. Improve communication at the community level, as well as at the public sector, in terms of strengthening the staff who are working directly or indirectly with children. The implementation of different action, as well as by taking into account different vulnerable communities, need to strengthen the capacity of different families in order to take care of their children. Niger has come up with a strategic plan against marriage of children, and this plan it is in the framework of the
par les parents et les membres de la communauté. Améliorer l'accessibilité et la qualité des services d'éducation. We need to improve the quality and access of education services. We need also to put in place new platforms for dialogues. So these good practices based on community approach has underlined the importance of involving the community. So all the community members were involved to share these responsibilities. So this community approach includes also the initiative of reducing the number of child marriages and early pregnancies. So this is targeting girls between 10 and 18 years so that they can be sensitized, so that we continue to fight against this scourge. So the leaders of the country who fully participate in this initiative, together with the community, brought about the intended impact. So the Ministry of the Protection of Child's Rights identified all the necessary stakeholders working on the protection of children,
and every role and responsibility of each actor was clearly defined. And it is important that there be mechanisms of monitoring and evaluation so that we can measure the progress and impact, and also to build on the progress made so far in this fight against child marriages. And all this needs to be aligned to the development program of the country. So it has always been inclusive as a process. And this is what enabled us to reduce the number of child marriages, which dropped significantly. And also there is a national commitment to this effect so that we continue bringing down the number of child marriages. So these are the few good practices that I wanted to share with you that we have tried to use in our country to fight against child marriages and to continue protecting children's rights. So this is the few details that I had to share with you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Amina. I think you have really shared eloquently the experience in Niger. I now call up my colleague, Ms. Sabalishan, as the next speaker. She's a senior technical officer who is also coordinating the African Partnership to End Violence. So Saba, you have the floor and 12 minutes as well.
Thank you, Yohaleshet. I'm going to share my presentation. Oh, sorry.
Let's give Saba a few seconds to manage the technicalities.
Yes. Can you see my slide now?
Put them in show mode, Saba, so that it can be enlarged and that we can visibly see.
Yes, yes. Okay, while I'm putting my slides, let me start by saying, Honorable Ms. Manti Tarawali, Minister of for Gender and Children's Affairs, Republic of Sierra Leone, we're really, really grateful for your presence. Distinguished directors from the government of Gambia, Ghana and Niger, we also appreciate your presence and contribution. Unfortunately, we missed our youngest activist. Ladies and gentlemen, ending violence against children is one of the most important priorities for our time. But it won't happen without a strong political leadership, as Dr. Joan mentioned earlier. And in this session, we will get an overview of the state of efforts of the 15 member states of ECOWAS in delivering on this commitment. I will share with you the progress in terms of member states' efforts in reinforcing their normative and policy frameworks, improvement in the area of implementation capacity and delivery of programs and services. I will also highlight some of the persisting challenges, and I will end my presentation with highlighting some of the solutions that we have found out from our reports and some key areas for attention for member states for ending violence against children. Now, let's begin with the normative foundation or standards. The African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child in Article 16 places the primary responsibility on states to protect children from violence. West African governments have undeniably made significant efforts to strengthen their legal and policy frameworks to protect children from violence, abuse, and exploitation. In terms of ratification of international and regional child rights instruments that are really critical for the protection of children from violence, the picture looks really positive for the region. Starting with the three major instruments: the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child have all been ratified by the 15 member states of ECOWAS. And the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women, or the Maputo Protocol, as it is known, is also ratified by 14 member states, with the exception of Niger. The optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child on the involvement of children in armed conflict is also ratified by 14 member states, with the exception of Liberia. Optional protocol to the CRC on the sale of children, child prostitution, and child pornography is ratified by 13 member states, with the exception of Ghana and Liberia. Continuing with the progress in ratification, all 15 member states have ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, a very important instrument. All member states have also ratified the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Again, all 15 member states have ratified the ILO Convention 182 on the worst forms of child labor. All member states, with the exception of Liberia, has ratified the ILO Convention 138 on the minimum age of employment. And another important instrument for the protection of children from violence is the Hague Convention on Inter-Country Adoption, which is ratified by nine member states, with the exception of Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. So now let's look into the national legal framework. With regards to the key milestones in national legal framework, according to the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, it's best practice for state parties to the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child to enshrine a detailed array of rights of children in their constitutions. In this regard, 14 member states, with the exception of Liberia, refer to children in their constitution. All 15 member states of ECOWAS have consolidated children's statutes providing a wide range of protection for children. 3 member states, these are Burkina Faso, Ghana, Niger, have statutes specifically focusing on children in conflict with the law. A very interesting development, Burkina Faso is the only country in the region that provides, that has a provision of legal aid for children. Another important milestone in terms of national legal framework, there has been really significant progress on legal protection of children from sexual violence in the region. All member states of ECOWAS, all 15 member states, have incorporated provisions criminalizing different forms of sexual violence involving children, including sexual exploitation, child pornography, into their national laws. Continuing with the key milestones related to the legal frameworks, 10 member states of ECOWAS have set the minimum age of marriage at 18 years or above, with the exception of Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, and Senegal. Most countries in the region have done really fairly well in prohibiting harmful social practices, with the exception of Cape Verde, the Gambia, and unfortunately Sierra Leone. To date, 12 member states have laws that prohibit harmful social practices, and FGM is criminalized in 10 member states. From the region, Liberia and Mali have no explicit prohibition on FGM. 14 member states of ECOWAS, once again, either set the minimum employment age higher than 14 years or at 14. Liberia is the only country that does not give the lowest age limit in the region. And out of the 9 African countries that have prohibited by law the corporal punishment of children in all settings, including in the home, 3 are from this region. These are Benin, Cape Verde, and Togo. In terms of implementation capacity, once again, many countries in Africa and indeed in the region now have either comprehensive or thematically focused national policies, plan of actions, programs for preventing, responding to violence against children, with a specific multi-sectoral coordinated body mandated to implement these policy frameworks. And these policies, plan of actions, and programs must form part of the national development agenda for effective realization of ending violence against children. Progress in this area shows that all countries in the region have introduced different measures or strategies to address violence against children, including strengthening the overall national child protection system to ensure that all children in all settings are effectively protected. ECOWAS is actually one of the leading community in Africa that is promoting system approach to child protection. The ECOWAS has a framework for strengthening national child protection system. This is one critical tool that supports member states to do more in this aspect, to align their national child protection system with the regional framework. Many countries in the region promote community mobilization programs to challenge social norms and the culture of violence. Again, another critical program that is widely promoted in the region is family economic strengthening programs with gender transformative focus to address the risk factors such as poverty and family separation, for example. The other is parenting program aimed at improving family dynamics to prevent violence against children. Other critical development in the region is that many countries, once again, have multifaceted interventions to prevent and respond to physical and sexual violence, targeting learners, educators, and parents. This is with regards to the school and the school environment and the school community. The other important milestone is many countries have conducted a care reform in their country, a care reform and a promotion of family-based alternative mechanisms, such as the promotion of kinship care, foster care, and supported independent living. Once again, many countries in the region have actually done, have promoted the agency of children to really play an active role in the protection of violence against them. Some more on the implementation capacity progress. A growing number of countries in the region have begun to invest in child protection, knowledge and skills training of their social workforce. Of the 9 ECOWAS member states that were included in the WHO 2020 Global Status Report on Preventing Violence Against Children, 7 of them have at least one comprehensive plan of action on addressing violence against children. And 4 member states, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Nigeria, have become pathfinders in the region. The Pathfinding Initiative is a global initiative for ending violence against children, where governments acknowledge that the scale of violence and abuse of children needs to be acted upon decisively and make a political commitment to end it by 2030. These 4 countries have prepared or are preparing a multi-sectoral plan of action to prevent and eliminate violence against children, informed by the 7 evidence-based violence prevention strategies known as the INSPIRE package. Honorable Minister, distinguished directors, and ladies and gentlemen, effective policies require effective coordination and collaboration among multiple sectors and stakeholders. In this regard, member states are at a different level in establishing high-level coordinated body with the clear roles and responsibilities assigned to relevant departments and institutions to avoid overlaps and to promote synergies. In terms of data and evidence that can effectively inform policy and practice, 2 member states, Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire, have conducted government-led national survey on violence against children. Let me now take you through briefly to the persisting challenges for ending violence against children in the region. So as you might have seen from the earlier few slides, although much have been achieved across the region, a closer investigation to the progress, however, show that West Africa as a region have really simply need to do more for children. Some of the persisting challenges are there is still insufficient investment in violence prevention, despite the clear benefits for the human economic development and the high social cost of inaction. Legislations remain unconsolidated and poorly enforced, with notable gaps in children's legal protection and between law and practice in many countries. Plan of actions are not costed, remain uncoordinated, with weak communication and articulation across government departments, between central and local authorities, and more importantly, with the national development agenda. There is also insufficient attention given to the situation of particularly vulnerable children who remain hidden and overlooked. There is a growing but not enough investment being made to regularly generate comprehensive data to inform legislation, policy, and wide social mobilization to effectively combat violence against children. As you have seen, only Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria have conducted national surveys. And finally, one of the biggest challenges across the continent is the persisting deep-rooted social norms, values, and practices that condone violence against children. As a result, you might have heard from Dr. Joan. West Africa as a region is where many children, although many children live a life of joy and peace while others are exposed to violence in all its forms. Dr. Joan already has mentioned these numbers. I don't want to repeat them again, but just to highlight that some children, ladies and gentlemen, some children experience violence in a more sustained and damaging way than others because of the circumstance in which they find themselves. For example, by living in conflict areas or living in poverty, or because of their own circumstances, for example, their personal disability or their age or gender. Because of that, there are a number of factors that heighten children's vulnerability to violence. According to a CPF report, sexual violence inflicted on children with disability is high in many countries in the region. Children with albinism are sometimes subjected to ritualized forms of violence in West Africa. Once again, Dr. Joan has already mentioned these numbers. I don't want to mention them again, but just to say that one emerging form of violence, which is really growing in the continent, but also in this region, is online child sexual abuse and exploitation. And of course, as you all know, COVID-19 has brought additional challenge to the efforts to prevent and respond to violence against children. The containment measures have really disrupted access to social and child protection services, thus further exacerbating the vulnerability of children to various forms of violence against children. Honorable Minister, distinguished directors, and ladies and gentlemen, in our recent report, as Dr. Joan mentioned, but also Yohala said, APEVAC, the African Partnership to End Violence Against Children, and SCPF jointly launched 3 reports 2 months back. Those reports shows a number of promising homegrown solutions that have successfully addressed addressing the complex interplay of factors between the child, his or her social context, such as the family, school, community, and society in influencing the child's exposure or protection from violence have been identified. Some of the key elements that were identified as the key factors of success were: the first one is as already highlighted by many speakers before me, is the political will, the importance of political will at the highest level. We really commend and acknowledge His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone, for really providing the important leadership, driving the efforts to eliminate sexual violence in Sierra Leone. Our report also shows that political will at the highest level is really critical. Government responsibility and active leadership is an important prerequisite for safeguarding children from violence. In countries where government has demonstrated ownership and political will to address violence, there has been really significant positive impact on the well-being of children, families, and communities. The second important factor that was identified is the community ownership and buy-in. Community networks, as you know, have demonstrated the ability and the capacity to mobilize rapidly on their own to address protection concerns. Community-based mechanisms have also facilitated access to extremely marginalized and hard-to-reach vulnerable groups. The third factor is the sensitivity to intersectionality of approaches. What that means is that sensitivity to intersecting vulnerabilities in which different forms of inequalities and discrimination based on gender, age, disability, location, among others, affect the girl and the boy child really differently. So countries that have adopted this kind of approach, the intersectionality approach, have been really successful. Interventions that took holistic and intersectional approaches were very effective, particularly at the family level. For example, activities around reinforcing healthy relationships, engaging men and boys, and economic strengthening at the household level have all yielded good results for reducing risk factors and promoting protective factors for children. And the last point is this is very critical in our region and the continent. Active role of religious and faith-based institutions and actors. These actors and institutions are instrumental in developing and supporting and enhancing homegrown initiatives in Africa. These institutions have the advantage of already being rooted in communities with history of addressing moral and ethical issues with a strong influence on the community. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, our reports have also identified priority areas for attention, not just for governments, but also for the African Union and regional economic communities. But I will highlight only 3 for member states. So the report, national government, important things. One is that national government must prohibit all forms of violence against children in all settings without exception. The second is an important area which many countries are really struggling to do is investing in an integrated multi-sectoral national plan of action for prevention and responding to violence against children that is aligned with the National Development Agenda. As you all know, many of our countries have laws and policies for the protection of children, but these policy frameworks or these legislative frameworks are not really backed with the necessary resources, financial and technical resources, with the institutional, the infrastructure. So, but more importantly, they are not integrated with the development, with the National Development Agenda, and thus lacking the necessary support. And finally, our report emphasizes that our continent is really blessed with rich and unique culture, heritage, and really knowledge base to effectively prevent and respond to violence against children. And our governments and their partners need to give sufficient attention and resource to these local knowledge and practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, the overall picture for the region in terms of progress addressing violence against children gives us a mixed picture. Countries have done much, but a lot needs to be done. And I have included all the resources in this presentation, and I really thank you very much for your kind attention. Over to you, Yohalashat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saba, for this elaborate presentation. As a chair, I have taken the liberty to give you some of the time saved from the Ghanaian president, what was meant to be Ghana's presentation. But it was good that you took us through to the various aspects and issues that were raised in the various resources that ACPF and APEVAC produced. So you have taken us really through the progress made and the persistent challenges that have been there. Many of the issues have been echoed by the previous speakers. I think now it's time for discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, as you have seen at the title of this forum, we said Regional Dialogue Forum. We don't want it to be a monologue whereby you only listen from the speakers and that you have no role to contribute. I think there is a lot that you will be contributing. So we want this session to be a dialogue wherein you also have resources to share. So the floor is open and for you to come in, and I'm sure our IT people will help us in this regard. And as a chair, some of the questions that in the chat panel are in French. Maybe we need some translation support in that regard to really understand what the questions are and to whom it should be addressed. So with that kind of request, I open the floor for discussion, for a true dialogue wherein we share, discuss, and chew the issues that have been raised before us. Thank you so much.
So if you wish to ask a question, please lift up your hand and we'll allow you to speak.
Yeah. Any hands? Anyone who's going to break the ice? Okay. I see Madam Amina raising her hand, and let me give you the floor, and then we will also encourage others to come in and share their perspective. Madam Amina, please go ahead.
Amina, vous avez la parole.
Peut-être vous demandez, excusez-moi, Madame Amina, peut-être vous demandez de bien regarder quoi.
Vous m'entendez là?
Madam Amina, you're not okay. Now we can hear you. Maybe speak.
Voilà, en fait, bon, moi, on s'adresse à la deuxième intervenante, son Excellence, la ministre de la Gambie, je pense. Elle disait que c'est en train donc de. Donc, elle a dit que, évidemment, elles ont une loi donc, pour l'interdiction du mariage des enfants avant l'âge de 18 ans. Alors, j'aimerais savoir.
Interpreters, can you please translate it? We are not hearing.
Pour arriver à l'objectif chez nous. Alors, chez nous, c'est pas facile.
Sorry, I was in the wrong channel. I heard that there are laws that have been established about child marriage, and I would like to know how they worked in order to implement and create laws that really fight against marriage of children marriage. I would like to know how they did it.
Thank you, Madam Amina. I think we lost part of what you said, lost in translation, but I think you're referring to perhaps the experience in Sierra Leone. Is that what I got? If so, then I'm sure Her Excellency, if she's around, she could share with us. Or if I missed something in the translation, maybe the interpreters, you can come in before giving the floor to others.
J'avais aussi demandé la main il y a très longtemps.
I also raised my hand. There is somebody who's asking for the floor. Hello? Hello, there is somebody who is asking for the floor.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Hello? There is somebody
please go ahead.
For the
Je peux participer? Je peux participer, sim. Gostaria de partilhar a experiência de Cabo Verde.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Très bien. Je suis Aboubakrine
My name is Aboubakri Abdeinani. I'm from IADIS, which is an initiative of development in Sahel. I'm from Mali. And I would like to thank the speakers in line with the experience that they have shared. And I have to say that this has been a very good lesson for us. So, but I would like to really focus on child labor, because here in Mali, we have laws and texts which really emphasize on child labor, but up to now, there is no progress. But let me say that our situation is getting worse every single day. And when you go in rural area, today schools have been abandoned, especially today with the mining exploitation in our country. And the whole world today knows that Mali has become a niche for exploitation. It has become a place where a lot of mining exploitation is happening. So especially in the region of Kai, as well as the region of Gao and Mauti in the center of the country, there is almost no more schools. And let me say that there is no school anymore because of the security situation. But when you go to the north in Kayet and Esikaso today, majority of those households are not able, the majority of households are not able to manage their children. As Madame said, the cultural context today really because of our cultural context, sometimes it is very difficult to really solve this issue of child marriage. We have tried, but I have to say that it's quite difficult. We have tried at least to work in different community. We went there, but we were chased by the local population. And then they even ask us to never come there because we are going against their tradition. So I don't know if which method can we use to better our activities, especially on child marriage. The other question, it is related to the sexual health of children. Sexuality in Mali today, it is a topic that people are hiding it. They don't want to speak about it. And we also raise these issues to UNICEF, and we ask the support of UNICEF. Until now, we haven't gotten any response. And also, we've contacted GLTC to support us. But today, in our capital, Mali, you will see at night a lot of young girls involving into prostitution, and these are children between 12, 13, and 15 years. And if you try to ask them what really pushes them to get into prostitution, most of the time they say that their parents are not working, and they are the only breadwinner, and this is the only way for them to support their family. So we need the support of our friends and partners to really guide us on how to fight these vices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abu Bakri. Just before going to the next question, can you please keep your questions concise so that we can give more floor to other participants. Now I go to Mr. Hector. Can you come in? Yeah.
Allô? Oui, jamais terminé, moi. J'ai terminé.
I think I'm done. Thank you. Hello?
Allô?
C'est mieux.
Sorry, those who have made their question, can you lower your hands so that we know who...
Good morning, all. Good morning, all. My name is Fanu Extora, and I am the chair of a Benin organization specialized in children. So I would like to thank our presenter. I don't have any question, but I would like just to bring my contribution. My contribution is that it is true that the violence against children are a phenomenon, especially in the sub-region. And when I look at the child labor in Benin, it's the same. You'll find them in market, you'll find them in construction field, you find them in the mining sector. In some region in our countries, majority of children are married very young, at a very young age, sometimes at 12 years old, as well as we have sexual mutilation as well, which is a problem. So we need to address this issue. We are trying to do our best, but unfortunately, things are the same. So after following whatever that I've said, I think we need to speak out against the violence, against violence toward children. I know that we are doing it, but in relation to children who are involved in pornography, today with the expansion of mobile phone and internet, today they have access to all this and they get involved in those kind of activities. So we need to conduct a lot of information campaign, and each and every state, I know that they are involved in these fight. But I think each and every country should try to improve their activities. Can I continue? Oui, allez-y, continuez. So I was saying that each and every state.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I was saying that each and every country should try to do better by creating different strategies in order to eradicate violence against children, and they should be adopted as well as they should adopt those laws. Sometimes laws are made, but they are not implemented. So we need also to address the issue on how to help those children. And then we should also put in place a monitoring indicator system that will enable us to understand exactly what we are doing. And to end, I would like to reiterate something. Asking these organizations to help us, the ACPF, to help us in these activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we go to the other Ogdrogo Holido. I don't know if I've pronounced it very well. Can you please go ahead and share your feedback?
Cabo Verde, je peux? Posso intervir enquanto Cabo Verde?
Take the floor as Cape Verde. Cape Verde is requesting for the floor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this meeting so that we can be able to share our experience. We'd like to say that Cape Verde, in regards to sexual violence against children, we already have a national plan for the protection and combat of sexual violence done by the government. We have government partners and also the civil society organization. Therefore, we
é formada por ilhas. Portanto, foi também alterado o Código Penal.
D'accord, allez-y, il n'y a pas de souci, nous vous écoutons.
Vous m'écoutez là ou pas?
We lost you.
Vous m'écoutez?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Please go ahead and make it brief as much as possible, please.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Dizer que Cabo Verde alterou.
I was saying that as Cape Verde, we changed the penal code for the to 14 years now, and right now Cape Verde is preparing with the NGOs a creation of rooms for the victims of sexual violence. Therefore, we will have a room for these victims. I would like to share a victim with the colleagues that there is a problem, it's an international problem in Africa, and in my opinion, we should join our efforts and create intervention network for ECOWAS. We need to have a plan that can be able to help us share good practices in the implementation of these policies in our country. We need to protect our children and also empowering families so that children will not undergo these practices. That was my intervention. I'm ready to share all the documents that I've acquired as an NGO in my work as the prevention of violence contra children. I'll stop here so that I can give colleagues an opportunity to intervene also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, Cabo Verde was the country that did well in our Gulf Friendliness Index in terms of the work done in protection, in investment, and in other aspects. So I'm sure we will have other platforms where we'll also benefit from your experience. So thank you very much for this one. So I go to the next. Alain, can you come in briefly? Alain? Alain Kipoda? You are muted, I think. Okay, then we go to the other. No consolers? On Konunu?
There is somebody called Alain Kopoda.
Yeah.
He has raised his hand.
Yes, that's what I was asking. I don't know for mispronunciation. I'm calling it in Amharic or what. But and thank you. That's what I was referring. I was going in the order of displayed there. So you have the floor, please.
Okay, j'espère que j'ai la parole.
Thank you. I hope I have the floor.
Très bien. Merci.
Thank you. My name is Noé Consola Kong, and from Benin. I am the coordinator of Kuche ANASEP, sorry. First of all, I would like to thank all the panelists and all the other speakers. In Benin, this phenomenon of violence against children is there, and the government has adopted a law mentioning that any corporal punishment to be abolished in schools. But we realize that a lot of schools, could be secondary schools or primary schools, do not respect those laws that has been adopted by the law. So my question is that what are the strategies that we can use as a civil society organization in order to solve or to address these issues, especially in Benin? So this is my question. What are the strategies for us as a civil society association? What are the strategies that we could take into account and put in place in order to fight these issue of corporal punishment in school? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll take the coming two questions and then I'll give the floor for the speakers. But before that, may I call in No Consolas?
Nous allons
you can come in. You have the floor. Hello? Can you hear me? And then we go to the next question, to the next person who has raised hands, Akigibe Amarchuku. I don't know if I have pronounced it well again. Apologies for that.
That's okay. You got it, Akigibe Amarachuku.
Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Higbe Amarachuku from Help Me to Succeed Foundation in Nigeria. Is an NGO. I thank everyone here for, especially the speakers and the panelists, all they have said. I got a lot from it. but mine is not a question, is like an addition to it. I'm thinking of sensitizing the public, especially the parents, because we are talking about violence against children, sensitizing the public, especially the parents, on how important it is to take care of these
Madam Akigibe, we lost you for 6 seconds.
Child labor. Oh. Hello, are you?
We lost you for a few seconds. Can you please repeat what you said, your very last sentence?
Okay. I am talking about sensitizing the public, especially parents, because we're talking about children. Sensitizing teachers too on how important it is to take care of these children. Child labor is one of the things that brings violence, if you look into it very well, against these children. So there will be strategies to be used. I don't know, but I feel to bring this to put up, avenues. Once there's no sensitization from the grassroots, things might not be well done. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. I think I want to thank every one of you who contributed. I think in the interest of time and before we go to the closing, I want to give our speakers a chance to respond some of the questions and comments that you raised. Let's go according to the program. And let me first give the chance to Madam Bintu Fatijuf. You can respond and add on the base of the feedback that we got from the participants and from the chats that was displayed there. So you can have 3 minutes, Madam. Hello, Madam, you're there?
Yes, hello, I am in, but then some of the questions display, I'm in them in French, and then if an interpreter can help so that I know what they are.
Yeah, okay, that was what I was trying to say earlier. Interpreters, if there are some burning issues, can you please, we only heard from those who have raised their hands, but we have not been able to see the questions that were in the chat box that were in French. Can you quickly go through them, please? Appreciate your support very much, interpreters.
Dominique?
Hello?
Dominique,
hello, Jennifer. Yes,
please,
Jennifer, we are translating it. Some of them have been already translated. Please, just check.
So, Madam, you can have a look at what has been translated. Just quickly go through them and then you can respond. Thank you, interpreters, for the support you are giving us. Really, you are doing a wonderful job in this regard. You are doing 2 things while simultaneously interpreting. You are also helping us in translating the chat box. Thank you very much. It's highly appreciated.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Some of the questions that I've seen that they were asking was whether they can get the presentations after this forum, and which I think already the technical team already received some of our presentations, and I think they will put them together for them to respond back on my side, I just also want to make a recommendation that we can redefine our strategy, not only like concentrating on violence against children, but we could also concentrate on children themselves, because I don't know whether what we are experiencing in Gambia, like we have seen scenario where children are the one even stopping elders. I don't know whether other countries started experiencing that. We have seen minors doing a lot of other offenses that I believe we could work together by using children themselves to also use them to advocate, to talk to them, so that how best they could be protected against such crimes. So I think these are also things that are very important, because if you look at our justice dispensation, that is juvenile justice too, we come across cases where parents themselves don't want to accept their children back despite undergoing a lot of integration process for them to be incorporated back in society. So sometimes parents don't want to accept their children because of them being multiple offenders all the time. So they will tell you, I prefer my child to stay in prison because I'm so tired of the issue. So we believe we could engage children themselves. We could put some of positive or responsive parenting. We could train the parents, and we could also use the children themselves to engage them during those sensitization process, not concentrating only on caregivers or child protection actors, but we could also use the children themselves. And I want to also commend this African Child Policy Forum, the organizers, that we could continue doing a lot together, because we all believe in synergy, complementarity, to work together to ensure that children of West Africa and even Central Africa are protected as well. So we need to organize more of these forums. We could do experience shares as we are doing today, so that this can help all of us in our service dispensation to ensure that we create a protective environment for children. So thank you so much for giving me the floor, Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam. I think that's the whole essence of this dialogue forum. It's about putting our hands together. It's about working together to make Africa safe from violence against children. So thank you so much. Madam Amina, I'll give you 3 minutes to share your reflections on the questions and some of the interventions that our participant made. So you have the floor, Madam. Please go ahead. Interpreters, are you helping Madam Amina to, I'm giving her 3 minutes to share her reflections and thoughts on the questions and feedback that was shared earlier.
Okay, well noted. Let me just give her the floor.
Ce que j'ai à dire, c'est qu'effectivement, on doit continuer à travailler ensemble, en synergie. Donc, voir maintenant.
What I have to say is that we need to continue working together, and we need to continue organizing such forums to share the good practices, to continue working on the protection of children. So each country has its strategies and its challenges regarding child's rights. And we know that our collective responsibility is to make sure that children are protected. We know that child marriage is a big problem almost everywhere that we are fighting against. And mostly in areas where we have a high population of Muslims. So I think this kind of forums are going to help us learn the good practices of other countries that we can apply in our respective countries so that we have the desired impact. And we need to do a lot of sensitization, and that is why we have this project in place, this forum in place. So the whole idea is to have good examples that we can share in our communities. So sharing of knowledge and experiences from the other countries is what will enable us to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. I know one of the limitations of these virtual platforms is that time becomes of an essence. Otherwise, I can see there is a lot in you that you wanted to share, but somehow I think the time and the sphere somehow has limited us. But I think despite that, we are doing great. Thank you very much, Madam, for these responses. Saba, I now give the floor to Saba. Saba, can you add something on some of the issues raised, and then we move on to the next session?
Yes.
Saba, you have the floor. Yeah.
Thank you, Halashat. Thank you, distinguished participants. Really appreciate your feedbacks and comments and observations. I could just say that it really reaffirms what we have tried to present today. Many of the speakers have actually highlighted what you have stated. In other words, we've tried to emphasize political will and action, political leadership at the highest level is really critical. As you have seen from the number of speakers, member states in this region, but also across the continent, they have the necessary legal and policy framework. Where we have challenges is in terms of implementation and enforcement. And that is why we really call upon the political leadership at the highest level to drive this the End Violence Against Children agenda. What that means is that these national legal and policy framework need to be supported by the necessary financial resources. One speaker also highlighted the importance of sensitization, making sure that the people who are at the key influencers in the child's life, which are starting from the family, the community, different institutions within the community, making sure these bodies and institutions have the right information and knowledge and programs that challenge the negative norms and values and behaviors are really critical. So, in other words, the leadership, meaning having the right framework, but more importantly, having the right resources to have the not only technical but also the financial resources to make sure that we implement and enforce and we create the necessary environment to safeguard children from violence against from all forms of violence. Thank you, Halashat. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Saba. I think in the course of the last 1 hour or so, we heard quite a lot about the state of affairs. We heard quite a lot about the progress made and the challenges that are out there. We also heard about the various barriers in terms of promoting and I think better protection of children from violence against children. And we also went a bit in depth to see what the capacity of an investment looks like in terms of enhancing protection of children. So the question, I think the legitimate question now is that, so what now? What should be done? What's the way forward? I think that perfectly takes us to the next session, where we will be kind of outlining the roadmap into the future as to what needs to be done to enhance the protection of children from violence in West Africa, and not only West Africa, but the rest of Africa as well. Before calling on some of the speakers in the way our last session, I was told that our child speaker is around, and I want to give her the floor. I think this meeting was meant for them. And so it's appropriate that we give them the floor and we hear what they have to say. So can you please, colleagues, Jenny, can you please bring her or give her the floor? Thank you.
Apologies, my internet dropped. What's her name?
No, her name is Miss Asu Jola Console Olakol and Oluwanike.
Asu, she's not there. She can lift up her hand and then I can allow her to talk.
Our child speaker, you are the most important guest in this platform. So if you're around, can you please?
Yes,
okay.
Unfortunately, she left again.
Okay.
So yeah, we're missing her, yes.
Okay, then so we move on into the others. The way forward, we have two speakers, but I'm afraid if Madam Aver is around, but I will give the floor for Mr. Komlan Messi, the General Secretary of West African Civil Society Forum, to share his reflections as to what needs to be done to enhance the protection of children from violence from the perspective of West Africa. You have the floor, Mr. Komlan.
So the communication. My reflection is especially we need the
Mr. Komlan, I don't know, sorry, I'm coming in because the sound is not that clear. I don't know if the interpreters have been able to hear it well. If so, if you kindly please go ahead again. Interpreters, are you able to listen to what Mr. Komlan has to say?
No, we had difficulties following because it wasn't audible.
Okay. Mr. Komlan, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I was saying that I'm currently at the communication will drop very soon. We, as a civil society organization, we just need a full support from the government to have a strong political will, so to have that fight, common fight against violence against children in the region. And we commend what government have done so far, and we encourage them to continue and to support civil society actions as well. And civil society organizations will help them to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Madam Maver is not around, so we would have been able to benefit from her reflections.
Your Halashati, she's trying to join in. She has technical difficulty, but I think we can take another round of questions.
Okay,
we can wait for her. Yep.
Okay, great. So I think we have a few minutes remaining, and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, you have the floor to intervene, to ask questions, to kind of give any feedback. So the floor is open. Please use it.
Can I have the floor, please?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Your name and your institution.
Hello?
Can you tell us your name and your institution, and you can go ahead.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. My name is Tatie Bukadena, the General Secretary of FOSCAO in Ivory Coast. I'm also the President of an NGO. This is my question. I wanted to talk about violence with regards to forced marriages. What I noticed is that in our countries, forced marriages are what we call customary marriages. This is enshrined in our customs. Even the law that we've talked about from ECOWAS seems not to be succeeding in this. So every year at the beginning of March, we have a lot of cases of forced marriages, and we know this is happening, and yet the state is there. So these behaviors are related to our customs. This is the question I had, how to tackle this. And the second question is about violence against children in our schools. There's one of the speakers who raised this issue. I am saying this because I think if we continue to train our children in our families, we'll have less cases of violence. But it's because nowadays we don't take the trouble of disciplining our children at the right time. So that is why these children grow up and become violent, because we are not we are getting it wrong. We are not punishing the children. So the mechanism put in place by ECOWAS, I know the intention is to fight violence orchestrated by these children. But how do we do this better? So these were my questions. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello? Merci, oui.
Hello?
Hello?
Please go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Hello.
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Yes, we can. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear him. Yeah, we can hear him. So please go ahead and share your thoughts.
Oui, je peux parler? Oui, allô? Oui, moi je suis...
Yes, you can continue. Yes, we hear you.
Vous m'entendez? Allô? Oui, on vous entend très bien. Vous m'entendez? Allô?
Yes, we can hear you. Interpreters, can you please help? Please tell him that we are hearing him.
Yeah, I'm trying to respond
okay.
At the top of my voice, but looks like there's a problem.
Okay.
So I'm from Burkina Faso.
Okay.
And I am a senior consultant in a women's organization in the western part of Burkina Faso. So the topic you are handling today is a very important topic, because what we are doing is for the coming generations. But what I would like to say is that this issue of violence against children and the protection of children, it needs to be institutionalized. Why? It's because in most of the French-speaking states, we notice that these violences are coming from adults. Why? It's because all the institutions, we do have cases of violence against vulnerable groups like the children. And I think in most of the things we do, we don't take into consideration these vulnerable groups, like people living with disabilities and children. And this has been happening through generations. If we keep marginalizing a part of our population, I think I can say we are also individually and collectively sick in this regard. So I think each one of us, not only in Africa, but everywhere in the country, we need to make efforts and put in place public policies that take into place these vulnerable populations. So including even the construction of infrastructure, we need to take this into account, for example, for the people living with disabilities. And the other important aspect is with regards to the training we give our children, to our teachers. So we need to take this dimension of vulnerable groups into account, because if these teachers are not well trained, they will not be able to take this into account in their teaching. And to finish, I would like to say that let's talk about the protection of children and violence against children. This normally happens frequently, and we don't take into account the psychosocial impact of this. And we must also monitor the content of the television that these children watch. So we do have people coming from outside who come and occupy our territories and generate some contents that are not appropriate for the children. And sometimes our territories are occupied, and in this way, the children do not have these safe spaces. So I think all the stakeholders, even at the international level, we need to work together, not only to fight against all these challenges with regards to children's welfare. So as we normally say, war is in the people's minds, and it is there that we need to begin to bring about change. So in our country, we do have very good public policies that have been formulated, but the problem is the implementation. And despite the existence of these policies, we still have these cases. And sometimes I think what is the problem is that the parents themselves don't play their role very well in taking care of their children. We don't even ask ourselves questions about where these children are going when they are not in the house. So that's what I wanted to say. We need to work together, and to finish, everything that we've said is important, but we need to continue doing sensitization and also advocacy, so that all this necessary information can be shared everywhere in our territories. And also let's think about the countries that have been affected by crisis. Our country, Burkina Faso, Niger, and also Sahel countries who are suffering from a lot of crisis, kind of war. And in all this, we don't take into account the welfare of children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think you have quite shared very important points. What I'm hearing here is also that I think about the gaps in terms of positive disciplining, in terms of you being used at home or in schools. And I think these are some of the issues that you have raised. Of course, the psychological impact of it, how we address it. There is also the issue of capacity in this regard as well. And I think why the theme of this discussion was focusing on capacity. And I think now you know the reason why. So it's good that you mentioned some of these points. But before going into another speaker, can I give 1 minute to each speaker if you have any burning issue you want to add? Saba, for instance, or Madam Amina, do you have any point to add?
Not really from my side.
Madam Amina, do you have any points to add? Interpreters, can you please draw her attention?
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
So what I would like to say is that all the countries who have ratified conventions under the national instruments. So the problem is the implementation. So we do have, therefore, different laws which need to be domesticated. So the big problem is that we do have laws that are existing, but we are not applying them. So this is the major problem for the African countries. And this is where our debate is rooted, implementation. So we need to do something. There's a problem somewhere. So how do we bring about the appropriate solutions with regards to this problem of implementation? So we need to really apply and implement all these legal instruments that are intended to protect the children. That's what I had to share. And I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam. And I want to also give 1 minute to Ms. Bintu Fatijuf. Do you have anything to say, to add? I think there was a very
prevent violence against children. Because I want to share this experience where a minor, a younger age, took a knife and stabbed the other minor with a knife. This happened in Gambia. And you could see the minor cannot be liable for any criminal offense because the age of criminal responsibility in Gambia is 12. So the boy is 7 years of age and the other one is 5 years. So that one, the parents are the ones responsible. So we have to also encourage positive parenting at our various levels in our advocacy strives. That parents have to also be responsive because that's the first home of every child. So they give the basic care and they should be very attentive and then give the protection, create the protective environment that children need in their lives as they grow up into adulthood. So as carers and as government, I will just also repeat what Madam Amina was saying, that on the side of law enforcement. So our law enforcement officers should ensure that the law is enforced to the letter, because that is what helps us, because perpetrators have to learn from their past experience, like when they are put behind bars, that will serve as a deterrent for others to commit such crimes. So it's very necessary. It's very, very important for us to ensure that the law is enforced. So that's my part, and thank you so much for inviting me once again.
Thank you so much, Madam. I see Honorable Madam Aver. You are there, Madam. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well,
can
good
you hear
afternoon,
me?
Madam Aver. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good afternoon.
And welcome to this platform. I think in over the last 2 or so hours, Madam, we have heard quite a lot of issues in relation to the state of violence, to the progress made, and to the challenges and what needs to be done. We have a bit of this. So your statement definitely will give it a closure, and you have the floor, Madam, to give us your statements.
Okay, thank you very much. I will begin by apologizing. The network was really very poor, so I was in the meeting and out, but I was able to catch a little bit of the conversation, and I want to thank everybody for their contribution. And so on that note, I would first of all recognize Her Excellency Dr. Siga Fatima Jan, Commissioner for Social Affairs and Gender ECOWAS Commission, the Honorable Minister from Benin, Mali, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone, distinguished directors from the governments of Cabo Verde, Ghana, Niger, and the Gambia, as well as our youngest speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to be with you today at this regional dialogue to deliberate on our collective efforts towards creating an Africa free from violence against children. Children's protection from violence is at the core of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child and continental and global development agendas, precisely the Agenda 2040, Fostering an Africa Fit for Children, Agenda 2063, the Africa We Want, and the Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. And member states have an obligation to fulfill this commitment. Failing to deliver on this commitment will seriously impede economic and social development across all the aspirations of the Agenda 2040, the Agenda 2063, and the SDGs. Last year, the occasion of the completion of the first 5-year implementation phase of the Agenda 2040, the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child issued a report on the status of its implementation. The study assessed the progress achieved by states in implementing the 10 aspirations of the agenda. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you may all know, Agenda 2040 requires states to prohibit all forms of physical abuse, neglect, and negligent treatment, sexual violence and exploitation, harmful practices, including child labor, female genital mutilation, and child marriage, to say just but a few. And similar to the findings of the recently launched reports produced jointly by the African Partnership to End Violence Against Children, APIVAC, and ACPF, the committee's assessment of the situation of children in West Africa showed that there is increased political commitment from many of the countries of the region. The region has made significant inroads from law reform efforts and the development of comprehensive policy to the creation of multi-sectoral collaboration structures and platforms, from increasing budgetary allocations to implementing innovative service models. However, significant gaps still exist in ensuring that every child is protected against violence, exploitation, neglect, and abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, this regional dialogue forum is an opportunity to reignite our resolve to create an Africa fit for children. Through the work of my mandate as Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Children of the African Committee on Children, I'm strongly committed to collaborating with all of you to implement Agenda 2040 and reach the aspiration of ending violence against children all over the continent. A key component of this support is to collaborate with organizations such as APIVAC, ACPF, and WorkSouth to promote evidence and share good practices, innovative approaches, and effective policies and programs. In July this year, APIVAC and ACPF launched 2 reports, namely Violence Against Children in Africa, a report on progress and challenges, national capacity to address violence against children, assessment in 10 African countries, and Here to Stay, homegrown solutions to violence against children, in order to inform member states on state of violence against children, but most importantly, to share a range of innovative initiatives and key priorities to bring about a quick end to the problem of violence against children in Africa. Excellencies, as I close this conference, allow me to present to you what I envisage to be our common position for action to reinvigorate our collective action to bring about a quick end to violence against children in the West African region. 1, despite the considerable advances in the area of law reform in the region, many children, especially those under circumstances, are still not provided with adequate legal protection, exception. 2, countries in the West Africa region have increasingly demonstrated better results in putting in place policy frameworks to address violence prevention. However, in some key policy frameworks are not concretized through multi-sectoral strategies, sectoral plan of action that for effective prevention and response to violence against children. Capitalizing on current commendable efforts to build children's agencies, member states need to strive to take the transformative measures in building the agency or agencies for children and in making them central to the movement of ending violence against children in respective countries. Lastly, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, strengthening gender-responsive and inclusive systems for providing integrated services for children that are directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic becomes an important priority. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the continent we love so much can only thrive if we care and protect our children. There are very few things so urgent and so grave as violence perpetrated against children, which denies them of their dignity as children and their future as adults. Hence the call for action to end violence against children on the continent. I thank you all. Have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Avar. I think that was a very powerful and succinct closing statement. And I'm sure we have taken a homework. I think there is a long way to go in terms of making our continent, our regions safe from violence against children. I think with that, I would like to thank all the speakers who really contributed a lot in this platform. And the interpreters have also done tremendous job in this exercise. They were having dual exercise of both translating what has been said, but at the same time what has been written on the chat. So thank you very much, interpreters. And I would also like really to thank those who coordinated this platform, the online platform. You have done very well, and we are finishing without any hiccups at all. So with that, if there is no any announcement to be made, Saba or the coordinators, I think we have done very well, and we need a big applause for all of us. And
no announcement, Yohanashit. Yeah, just to say that we will share all the presentations and the reports.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. All the resources that have been presented in this and this regional forum, dialogue forum, will be shared, so you will receive them. So thank you so much, and we'll hopefully meet in another such dialogue platforms. So I could say that the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon, have a good evening, and thank you very much once again.
Yeah.